The Akihabara massacre, a record of isolation and indiscriminate killing. Tragedy in a busy city. June 8, 2008, a Sunday. Akihabara, Tokyo, the hub of electronics and subculture, was bustling with young people and families enjoying the weekend. The main street was closed to traffic, creating a relaxed, pedestrianized atmosphere. However, that tranquility was instantly shattered by a horrific tragedy. Shortly after noon, a truck swerved onto the central street, designated as a pedestrian paradise. The vehicle drove at high speed, striking several pedestrians before coming to a stop. As onlookers struggled to comprehend what had happened, a man emerged from the truck's cab, brandishing a survival knife. He began attacking pedestrians indiscriminately. The scene quickly turned into chaos. People scattered in panic, victims collapsed, and sirens wailed. The rampage lasted only a few minutes, but it inflicted immeasurable terror on those present and deep shock across society. This incident resulted in 7 fatalities and 10 injuries, permanently scarring the history of indiscriminate mass violence in Japan. The profile and path to the crime. The perpetrator, apprehended near the scene, was Tomohiro Kato, a 25-year-old temporary worker. His motive and background gradually came to light through the subsequent investigation and trial. Kato had endured a strict upbringing and struggled to build relationships in society. His unstable position as a non-regular employee, coupled with workplace troubles and increasing social isolation, severely strained his mental state. For months before the incident, he repeatedly posted messages on an internet forum, expressing his discontent with his situation and society, and hinting at his criminal intentions. These posts documented his process of deepening isolation and losing his place in the real world. On the day of the crime, he drove a truck from his home in Shizuoka Prefecture to Akihabara. Even while driving, he continued to post on the forum via his mobile phone, providing a real-time account of his premeditation and internal state. The fact that the tragedy could not be prevented, despite his detailed plan, "I will crash the truck, and if the truck becomes unusable, I will use a knife," raised serious questions for the police and internet service providers after the fact. The nature of indiscriminate murder and the digital society. This incident clearly demonstrated that the essence of indiscriminate murder lies in the randomness of the targets, characterized by the phrase, "anyone would do." The victims were people who happened to be present, having no connection whatsoever to the perpetrator. Tomohiro Kato channeled his frustration and despair toward society itself, unleashing his violence in a location where the maximum number of people gathered. Another critical aspect of the case was the connection between the internet and the crime. The internet forum was the only link he maintained with society, where he meticulously documented his path to the crime. His postings held 2 conflicting elements, a cry for help and a declaration of a criminal plan. For him, it may have been the final attempt to make his existence, ignored in the real world, acknowledged by society through the digital space. Following the incident, police and experts were compelled to strengthen their response and information-sharing protocols regarding online suicide and crime threats. The incident forced Japanese society to confront the profound impact the digital space can have on the real world. The judicial verdict and points of contention. Following his arrest, Tomohiro Kato was indicted on charges including murder, attempted murder, and arson. The psychiatric evaluation was one of the biggest points of contention during the trial. The defense argued that his mental state at the time of the crime was impaired, while the prosecution maintained that the crime was thoroughly planned and that he possessed full criminal responsibility. The court acknowledged his difficult and lonely background, but ultimately found the severity of the crime, including his strong intent to kill, premeditation, and the mass casualties, too great to mitigate his responsibility. Throughout the district and high court proceedings, the verdict was consistently the death penalty. The Supreme Court upheld this decision, and his death sentence was finalized in 2015. This trial reaffirmed the heavy judicial duty of determining how society should condemn perpetrators of indiscriminate murder. Social impact and legal reform. The Akihabara massacre was not just an isolated incident, it profoundly impacted Japan's legal framework and social structure. 1. Stricter knife regulations. In response to the type of weapon used, regulations on bladed weapons were tightened. Specifically, possession of double-edged survival knives was severely restricted, leading to legal amendments aimed at ensuring public safety. 2. Review of pedestrian zones. Following the incident, many pedestrian zones nationwide, including Akihabara, saw the installation of vehicle intrusion prevention barriers and strengthened security systems. The nature of the attack forced a fundamental reassessment of urban safety measures. 3. The social problem of isolation. The issues underlying Tomohiro Kato's actions, non-regular employment, dismissal from temporary work, reliance on the internet, and isolation, symbolized the structural inequality and loneliness plaguing Japanese society at the time. The incident underscored the urgent need for government and local authorities to intensify social initiatives focused on youth isolation and mental health care. Historical lessons and the future inquiry. The Akihabara massacre forces us to ask a fundamental question: what is true safety? The background of the tragedy suggests that beyond the individual's issues, there was a structural problem where society failed to pick up invisible SOS signals. We must trace the records of this incident, deeply analyzing the social distortions that breed isolation, the boundary between the internet and reality, and the scars left by indiscriminate murder. We must not allow this tragedy to fade. By holding its memory as a cornerstone of remembrance, we must continuously inquire and act toward realizing a warmer society where the dignity of every life is protected.